Hello, my name is John Sayer. I'm a technical marketing manager at Autodesk. Today I'd like to take you through a workflow using the Infrastructure Design Suite. The goal for today is to take my design corridor and create a quick visualization for a meeting with stakeholders. So let's get started. To give you a bit of background about this project, we've been tasked to explore preliminary routing for a roadway from the existing interchange to an existing road in town. We will create a quick visualization in order for the crossing property owners to better understand traffic flow and impact. So inside of our Civil 3D model, we have a design corridor and existing ground surface that we've generated. So let's take that into 3ds Max Design. We'll select Export to 3ds Max Design and be sure that we have everything checked that we'd like to export. And just select Export. Once the export is complete, we're ready to jump into 3ds Max Design. Now, once in 3ds Max Design, the import process is very straightforward. We go up to the Civil View pull down and we bring in our geometry that we exported to our file. Select the file that we exported from our Civil 3D model, and it gives us all the information that we exported from our corridor and our existing ground surface information. So we're going to select just what we want to bring in. So in this particular instance, I'd like to bring in my center line, I'd like to bring in my existing ground surface, my edge of travel way, and my corridor. Once everything's selected that I want to bring in, I simply hit OK, and the import process begins. So let's take a look at the information that's been imported in from our Civil 3D model. So a couple things I'd like for you to take notice of. Navigation inside of 3ds Max Design is much the same as it is in Civil 3D. And the materials come across from our corridor model, so there's no need to go in and apply materials to each individual piece of the corridor model because they come straight in. So let's add a bitmap or an image to our surface. We can do that by simply draping the image on top of our surface, and that'll help us create our or build our model in 3ds Max Design and show and tell the story that we're wanting to tell. Once our image is in and our corridor information from our Civil 3D model, we need to create what's called a daylight source. All right, so that will give us our sky when we start to create the visualization for our presentation. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to create a daylight system. Just placing, pretty much just placing a placement of the sun so that we have lighting. Okay, we want to be sure that we move our sun over the top of our model. So I'm going to select our sun. I'm going to pull this down so that it's over the top of our model so we can see it a little bit better, easier to move. I'll move it back over the top of it, and then I'll raise it up so that we are above our model. All right, so easy way to get back to our model is just to go to the Home button on our view cube. Then I can zoom in and start to apply other objects. So the first thing that I like to apply is I like to add a camera so that we can drive the road. So in order to do that, we're going to go up into the Civil View pull down. We're going to use the Object Placement Style Editor. We're going to add an element. That element is going to be a 35mm camera. We're going to stick it to the center line of the road. And we're going to start off by giving it a design speed or a speed to animate of 60 kilometers per hour. We're going to give it a horizontal offset of 2 meters. And we're going to give it a vertical offset of 2 meters. And let's see where this places us. So if we hit apply, and then I change to that view, then we can see if we are vertically high enough or placed horizontally where we'd like to travel down the road. All right, we can hit play and we can look at this and see if this is the placement that we would like to have. In this particular instance, I'd like to raise it up to 3 meters vertically and then reapply it. Now I'm where I need to be vertically, so I can start focusing on other things like striping and things of that nature. Maybe some stripes, throw some cars up and down the road, just to really start telling the story inside of our model. So let's go ahead and throw some striping on. We'll have a stripe that represents the center line and our edge of travel way. So in order to do that, we're going to go into our road marking style editor, and we're going to add road markings much the same as we did our objects or our camera that we did on our center line. We're going to add an element, and I'm going to pick my shape that I want to stick that to. So that's going to be the center line of the road again. I'm going to go ahead and apply it and see what it looks like. So it's a white solid line. So I want a dashed line because I'm trying to represent a passing zone on my roadway. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to a different color, change it to a yellow color. And then I'll go ahead and give it some a different mark length, which would be 3 meters. And I'll give it a gap length of 3 meters. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, so that represents what I'd like to see. I'm going to go ahead while I'm here in my road marking style editor. I'm going to add another element, and I'm going to select my edge of travel way on one side of the road. All right. Once I've done that, I'll go ahead and hit apply. It's going to give me white lines. Now notice it did on both sides of the road. So quickly it adds the striping according to the feature lines that come in from the corridor in the Civil 3D model. So I've got my striping representing what I want. I hit OK. And I can go ahead and hit play just to drive the road a little bit. Starting to really shape up. So there's some other things I'd like to add. I'd like to add a car. Everybody likes to see cars going up and down the road. So let's add some cars. So I'm going to add vehicles moving away from me in the driving lane that I'm hovering over now. So I'm going to go back into the civil view pull down and select object placement style editor. And again, I'm going to select an element. I'm going to add a new element, and I'm going to select the center line of my road. And I'm going to add multiple cars at a regular interval. And I'm going to have it go ahead and add some random cars out of the selection that I picked out of these 16. I'm going to give them a speed. I'm going to give them a speed that's faster than what I have my camera was at. And I'm going to give it a horizontal offset of 2 meters and leave the vertical alone. I'll hit apply, and 3ds Max Design will add the cars for me in my driving lane of my road. Now once the cars are added, I can hit play. You can see the cars move, and you can see the cars show as if they're pulling away from the camera. That's the story I'd like to tell in this particular instance. So I see the cars on the driving side of the road. I'm going to go ahead and throw some cars on the other side of the road and have them driving towards me. So I simply add another element, and I'm going to use SUVs on this one. We'll do the same interval, multiple with a regular interval, but we'll change the interval to 75 meters. And we'll give them the same speed. All right, give it the same horizontal offset, and we'll hit apply. It applies the cars to the other side of the road. We can go ahead and hit OK, and we'll hit play, and now it looks like we're driving down the road with cars going away from us and towards us. I'm going to pause here. You can see the curve looks as if it's not following the radius of the curve. This is a setting that I will discuss in a later episode, and you'll be able to see that it updates when we update the corridor in the Civil 3D model. Again, I'll be showing that in the next episode. Now let's continue. Now notice the scene in the background. We've got our sky and everything. so we can definitely start to tell the story that we're wanting to tell. Now, one last thing. I'd like to zoom forward just a little bit in my timeline, just to take a quick still shot and a rendered still shot, and something we could hang on the wall at a meeting or give to a customer or a client. So I'm going to run up and hit my render button, and I'll select render, and it quickly renders this still shot for me. We could render a video in the same fashion, but very quickly we're able to get a rendered still shot of the beginnings of our visualization. So as you can see, in 10 to 15 minutes, you're well on your way to creating a compelling visualization that will tell the story that you're trying to convey. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.